When someone truly hates you, one of the clearest signs is how they twist your words. Not because they misunderstood you, but because they want to. You could say something neutral, even kind, and they'll find a way to make it sound like an insult or an attack. It's not about clarity, it's about control. They're not listening to understand, they're listening to arm themselves. Every conversation becomes a trap. You try to explain yourself, but the more you talk, the more they bend your meaning. It's like playing a game you can't win because they've already decided you're the villain before the match even starts. When someone's heart is filled with resentment, even your calmest tone feels aggressive to them. They'll call you defensive when you're being honest, rude when you're setting boundaries, and fake when you're just trying to stay civil. It's their way of making sure the story always paints you as the problem. Because if they can convince others or themselves that you're the bad one, it justifies their hate. It gives them emotional permission to keep disliking you without guilt. They crave that false sense of moral high ground. It's not about truth anymore. It's about feeding their ego. You'll notice how conversations with them feel exhausting, like you're constantly walking through a verbal minefield. You start double-checking your words before you speak, trying to predict how they might twist them. You stop being yourself because you're too busy defending your character. That's the emotional toll of dealing with hidden hate. It's not the argument that hurts, it's the constant need to prove you didn't mean harm. And after a while, you start realizing that no matter how gently you speak, how clear you are, they'll still find a reason to be offended. That's when you know it's not about misunderstanding, it's about intention. This kind of person doesn't want resolution. They want ammunition. Every word you say becomes another piece of evidence for the story they've built about you. They'll bring up old things, misquote you, or twist a moment from months ago just to reignite a flame that should have gone out. It's their way of keeping the conflict alive because hate for them is fuel. It gives them something to focus on, something to blame, something to feel powerful over. And as long as they can keep you reacting, they keep winning. The trick is they feed off your reaction, not your reason. The best way to see through this behavior is to stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. That's what Jefferson Fisher would call emotional maturity in action. You don't have to convince them of your side. You don't have to reframe your truth just to fit their narrative. When someone hates you that deeply, logic won't change their heart. Silence, however, will reveal everything. When you stop engaging, their twisting loses power. You take back control not by fighting back, but by not playing the game at all. And that's the part that hurts the most for them, because hate can't survive without attention. The moment you stop feeding it, it turns back on them. It exposes their bitterness, their insecurity, their need to always be right. You'll notice their energy shift. They'll try harder to provoke you, to get a reaction, to twist something new, but if you stay steady, calm, and grounded, the truth eventually becomes clear to everyone around them. When someone hates you, they'll twist your words. When you love yourself enough not to respond, they twist themselves instead. One of the most painful signs that someone truly hates you is when they quietly celebrate your failures and pretend not to notice your successes. They might smile when things go wrong for you, not out of concern, but out of quiet satisfaction. When you stumble, they act like it's proof that they were right about you all along. And when you achieve something, they suddenly turn silent, change the subject, or give you a compliment that feels more like a jab. They don't want to see you grow because your growth threatens the story they tell themselves about being better than you. Hate doesn't always look like open aggression. Sometimes it looks like withheld applause. You'll notice how they seem to light up when you share a struggle. They lean in, ask questions, even act supportive, but deep down, they're collecting those moments like trophies. Your pain feeds their ego. It makes them feel superior. They'll never admit it, but they like seeing you doubt yourself because your insecurity validates their resentment. And when you start doing better, when you finally overcome what they thought would break you, their entire attitude shifts. They suddenly become distant, cold, or sarcastic. It's not coincidence, it's discomfort, because your success shines a light on the parts of them they don't want to see. Haters can't stand seeing you win because it disrupts the narrative they've built in their minds. They need you to fail so they can feel justified in their hate. If you rise, they lose their excuse. That's why they downplay your wins. They'll say you got lucky, that you had help, that it wasn't really that big of a deal. They'll twist your effort into something less meaningful just to protect their fragile pride. And what's ironic is that these same people often position themselves as realists. They'll tell you they're just keeping it honest, when in reality, they're keeping it bitter. Over time, you begin to see the pattern. The conversations where you share good news suddenly turn awkward. They'll nod, fake a smile, and shift the topic to themselves or something negative. When you're down, they have all the time in the world. But when you're up, they disappear. That's not friendship. That's quiet hostility disguised as indifference. It's the kind of emotional sabotage that doesn't happen through confrontation, but through inconsistency. They want to stay close enough to see if you'll fall again, but far enough not to help you stand when you do. The truth is, someone who hates you wants your life to confirm their low opinion of you. That's why your progress makes them uncomfortable. It proves them wrong. It challenges their story. It reminds them that they wasted energy rooting against someone who kept going anyway. The more you shine, the more their envy burns. And envy is just hate that doesn't have the courage to say its name. So when they try to minimize your joy or ignore your milestones, don't take it personally. It's not that you're doing something wrong, it's that you're doing something they can't. And this is where your maturity has to step in. You don't need their validation to make your victories real. You don't have to shrink your happiness to make bitter people comfortable. People who love you will celebrate you. People who hate you will question you. The difference is easy to spot, and it's not your job to convince them otherwise. Keep winning, keep growing, keep shining, because nothing exposes hate faster than genuine, unstoppable peace. When someone cheers for your failures and goes silent for your wins, they've already told you everything you need to know about where their heart really stands. When someone secretly hates you, they often pretend to care, but their actions always betray their real feelings. They'll check in just enough to look decent, but never enough to truly connect. They'll ask how you're doing, yet their tone lacks warmth. Their eyes lack sincerity. You can feel that something's off, but it's hard to prove, because on the surface, they appear polite. That's the tricky part about hidden hate. It dresses itself up as concern. They'll offer advice that feels like criticism wrapped in kindness. It's the kind of care that doesn't lift you. It lowers you slowly. You'll notice this when their compliments always have conditions. They'll say things like, "You look good today, for once," or "I'm proud of you, but don't get too comfortable." Their words sound supportive, but their tone tells another story. It's not love, it's mockery disguised as maturity. And when they pretend to defend you, it's usually in a way that still makes you look bad. They'll say, "Yeah, they can be difficult, but they mean well." That's not protection, that's poison with a smile. It's their way of maintaining an image of decency while slowly undermining yours. This imitation of caring is one of the most manipulative forms of hate because it confuses you. You start second-guessing your instincts, wondering if you're being too sensitive. You tell yourself, maybe they do mean well, but deep down, your gut knows the difference between genuine support and strategic kindness. Real care makes you feel safe. Fake care makes you feel small. When someone hates you, they'll act concerned only when it benefits them, when it earns them praise or gives them information they can later use against you. Their version of empathy has an agenda. The reason they imitate caring is simple. It's about control. Open hostility exposes them, but pretending to care lets them stay close enough to keep tabs on you. They'll play the role of the understanding one, the honest friend, the voice of reason, but their goal is to keep you doubting yourself. That way, when they finally hurt you or gossip about you, they can say, "I was just trying to help." Hate doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers through fake compassion. It's manipulation with manners. And this is where emotional intelligence becomes your armor. When you start noticing these subtle contradictions, the smile that doesn't reach their eyes, the advice that cuts deeper than it helps, the compliments that sting, You stop responding to words and start paying attention to energy. You realize that people who genuinely care don't make you feel heavy after every interaction. They don't leave you questioning your worth. They don't use kindness as a weapon. Once you recognize the difference, you stop falling for the act. You stop giving them access to your emotions just because they speak softly. The most powerful thing you can do when someone imitates caring but carries contempt is to quietly detach. Don't confront, don't explain, don't expose. Just pull your energy back. Fake caring feeds on attention. It can't survive in silence. Over time, their mask slips because hate can't fake love forever. Their tone will harden. Their words will lose their charm, and their actions will show what their heart always felt. The moment you stop giving them the reaction they crave, they reveal themselves, and that's when you finally understand someone who truly cares brings peace, not confusion. Someone who hates you will always pretend to care, but never enough to mean it. When someone truly hates you, they'll find subtle ways to silence your voice. They may not yell or openly dismiss you, but they'll make you feel like your words don't matter. Every time you speak, they'll interrupt, talk over you, or minimize what you say. It's not always loud disrespect. Sometimes it's quiet invalidation. They roll their eyes when you make a point, sigh when you express emotion, or give you that look that says, "Here we go again." Over time, these small reactions send a big message. Your opinions don't hold value here, and that's exactly what they want you to feel, powerless. This form of hate hides under the mask of conversation. They might tell you you're too emotional, too defensive, or too sensitive whenever you try to express yourself. It's their way of controlling the narrative. If they can make you doubt your ability to speak up, they win. You stop sharing your thoughts, not because you don't have them, but because you're tired of being dismissed. That's what silent hate does. It makes you edit yourself. You start shrinking your voice to fit the space they allow you. And once you do, they feel superior, validated, and in control. People who hate you often fear your influence. They know your words carry truth, confidence, or light, something they lack. So they shut it down before others can hear it. They might subtly redirect conversations away from your input, take credit for your ideas, or change topics whenever you speak. It's psychological warfare disguised as casual conversation. They want you quiet so they can stay comfortable. Hate, at its core, is about insecurity, and insecure people can't stand when you take up space with authenticity. You'll notice how their tone shifts depending on the audience. When you're alone, they'll dismiss you openly, but in public, they'll pretend to listen, nod, and give fake validation. It's not about respect, it's about reputation. They want to appear civil while quietly undermining you behind the scenes. They'll quote your words out of context, joke about you in front of others, or make subtle comments that make people question your credibility. It's not a mistake. It's strategy. They don't just want to silence your voice in the moment. They want to erode your influence over time. And the worst part is how it affects your confidence. You start wondering if maybe you are too much, too opinionated, or too intense. You start apologizing for things that don't need apologies. That's how emotional silencing works. It doesn't happen all at once. It's gradual erosion. You don't lose your voice overnight. You just stop using it as loudly. But here's the truth Jefferson Fisher would emphasize. Your calm is not silence, and your silence is not weakness. You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to speak where you're valued. So when someone constantly shuts you down, you don't argue harder. You redirect your voice to spaces where it's respected. You stop seeking validation from people committed to misunderstanding you. The most powerful way to respond to hate that tries to silence you is to keep speaking, not louder, but wiser. Don't fight to be heard in rooms that thrive on your silence. Leave those rooms, because your voice isn't the problem. Their insecurity is. When someone hates you, they'll try to mute you. When you love yourself enough to keep talking, keep standing, and keep shining anyway, that's how you remind them. Silence doesn't win when truth keeps breathing. When someone truly hates you, they don't want your company for connection. They want it for comparison. They keep you around not because they value who you are, but because they feel superior when they're near you. Every interaction becomes a silent scoreboard. They'll highlight your flaws, exaggerate your mistakes, and subtly remind you of the areas where they think they're better. They crave those moments when you stumble because it boosts their fragile self-esteem. Hate often hides behind superiority. It's not always loud or cruel. Sometimes it's condescending smiles, backhanded compliments, or constant one-upmanship. They need you to feel small so they can feel big. You can see it in how they react when the attention shifts toward you. The moment someone praises you, they jump in with their own story, trying to reclaim the spotlight. If you mention something you're proud of, they'll find a way to top it. That's cute, but when I did it, they can't celebrate you because it threatens their position in their own hierarchy. Their hate isn't always emotional. Sometimes it's competitive. They view life as a game where your success means their loss. And because they don't know how to grow, they try to make you shrink. That's the only way they can keep winning. What makes this dynamic so toxic is how easily it confuses you. They'll act friendly, even generous, but everything they give has an edge. If they help you, it's not out of kindness. It's to remind you that you needed them. If they praise you, it's followed by a reminder of how they could have done it better. Their hate wears a mask of mentorship, but underneath, it's jealousy disguised as wisdom. They don't want you to rise too far, just high enough to admire them. They enjoy your presence only when it feeds their ego. Over time, being around someone like this drains you. You start feeling like no matter what you do, it's never enough. They criticize your choices, question your motives, and mock your progress. They'll joke about your dreams like they're unrealistic, not because they are, but because they can't imagine themselves doing it. That's the core of their resentment. Your potential makes them uncomfortable. They can't handle the reflection of their own insecurities in your courage. So they tear down what they don't understand, and they do it while pretending to just be honest. It's not honesty, it's disguised hate. What they really want is to keep you beneath them emotionally, socially, or mentally. They'll offer advice that holds you back, plant doubts that slow you down, and pretend they're protecting you from disappointment. But deep down, they're protecting themselves from feeling irrelevant. Hate like this doesn't always roar. Sometimes it manipulates. It's the kind of energy that smiles in your face, but claps for your failures in silence. It thrives when you question your worth because your self-doubt keeps